When you speak about when people, because they like to say you choose to be gay.
Yes.
So can you unpack that for us? Because you did slightly touch on it to be like, since I was way back, I don't know,
Yes.
have any memory of ever liking girls actually.
Yes. Yeah, people often do say that this is a lifestyle that you have chosen for yourself. And as I said, for someone like me, that's very funny, and it's very funny to think that someone can just easily dismiss your experience. And something very important that you said also at the beginning is that just because you have never witnessed something does not mean it does not exist. And so that's why I also do understand why people, they find it hard to come to terms with the fact that a young child can feel homosexual. Because for them, maybe homosexuality as a lifestyle is all about fornication. It's all about all these immoral and shameful acts that we are taught homosexuality is and is about. Whereas we don't, or they don't see the experience and the lived truth of someone who is not even thinking about having sex or being in a romantic relationship, and yet is still able to identify as a person who is homosexual. They still have, for example, I'll make an example about me. I could easily identify as a child that I'm much more effeminate than other boys. And those were one of the traits or the things about me that would ultimately lead me to feeling excluded and feeling like I shouldn't speak up. I shouldn't raise my hand in class and give an answer, even though I know the answer, because people would see that, okay, he speaks a bit more effeminate. The way he raised his hand, that's a bit gay, And in as much as we're not thinking about being in romantic relationships at that age, or we're not thinking about having sex, but we are able to identify sexual orientation, and we are able to identify the expressions of sexual orientation. And so I think it's very sad that we do have people who are not even willing to entertain the idea of possibly not having a choice, but just growing and being born this way.
It's funny because the heterosexual experience, nobody asks you, when did you know you're heterosexual?
Exactly.
Or how did you know you like boys? And so it's strange for the same group of people who've never been asked that to be in a position now to ask other people.
Yeah.
When they, okay, so take us to when you're young, because maybe people don't quite understand how, because even the word lifestyle, it's not a lifestyle, it's who you are. So there's a difference between, because lifestyle is, oh, I choose to be a hippie, I'm gonna hike a lot, go to the rivers, that's a lifestyle. But ugutuThandabani,
that's more of like an identity thing. I don't think it's a lifestyle. Being homosexual, for me at least, is my identity. It's how I live and breathe. It's how I love. It's how I, choose to do my work. I'm a law enforcement officer, right? I've been trained, as I mentioned on the comments, that I underwent a paramilitary training. And even through that, I was able to live my truth and be homosexual. And even in the way that I do my work, I've noticed that I'm able to express myself differently than the conventional way. And it allows me to work more effectively, as opposed to maybe trying to be and act masculine when I'm not, trying to think in a masculine way, or whatever masculine means, But being homosexual it's not a choice. It's not something that I get to switch on and off, but it's something that is automatic, for lack of a better word. It's something that just happens without me thinking, like breathing. And so even for the feelings that I get to develop for other men, that is not something that I choose to do, you know.
You don't choose who you're attracted to.
I don't, which is why I believe it's something that's more of an identity. Being homosexual is more of an identity matter and issue, because it has to do with the way that you just naturally express yourself more than what you choose to do with your time. When you wake up, even when you're alone, the feelings that you have about yourself, other people, if they were to perceive you, and maybe, let's say you express yourself just like many of us in the way that you dress. It's one of the first and easiest,
Exactly.
you know. That's not necessarily, the feeling is not from how you chose to be, but the feeling comes from your essence, just from who you are, from your spirit. And that comes out into your thoughts. It comes out into the idea of, okay, let me put this on, let me put this together. And that becomes an expression of that identity that's inside, that essence that chooses either to be masculine or feminine, chooses to look fancy, or chooses to look rough, or chooses however, but it's the expression of the essence and the spirit that's inside.
Just the human experience.
Yeah.
So take us to when you're young, ne?
Yeah.
When you, because you said you start realizing that you prefer to hang out with the girls. I think you
Yes.
said something alluding to that, ne? Yeah, so take us there.
Okay, so being young, and it's something that I've had to consciously change as I grew up. I noticed that I would obviously, I don't know if I was adopted, I'd be adopted by these girls because they'd feel sorry for me. You know, they could tell that, no, this one is being excluded. This one is, you know, not being treated nice by the boys. And so I would naturally just gravitate to hanging around with girls. But closer to my high school years, I'd say end of like primary school, around grade 7, this was something that was beginning to bug me. And because at that stage also, I could say that I was living a double life. I was one person at school, because school was a place where gradually I found it more easier to be myself and be gay in spaces and also in moments, because it wasn't throughout the schooling day as well that I was gay. There'd be moments where I'd be free to be gay, and then moments where I'd have to conceal it and keep it together. So, but you know, ultimately school was
What
this,
a life.
right? It's a very hectic life.
Oh my God.
So-
So as a child, you figure out which spaces that you can be yourself and which you can't.
You literally learn code switching from a very young age. And in a way, it forces you to grow up, which is something that no child should have to live through. But you do learn that, okay, it's safe for me to be this way here, and it's no longer safe. And you also develop the ability to identify individuals in the way that they talk, that, okay, this one could possibly be, you know, friendly, kind. I can be myself around this one, you know. So yeah, school was the place where I started learning that I can be myself, you know, and which is why I had this debate in my head that you can't be this way for forever. There's gonna come a time where you're gonna have to be open and let your family know the truth as well. Because I also grew up in a very Christian household. We were very involved in church. I also was serving in church, and at some points I was even leading the worship team at my church for a couple of like 5 years or something. But yeah, so what I was saying is that school was the place where I learned to be myself and started developing that confidence as well. Because I believe that the more you deny yourself, the more you lose confidence, and you begin to not trust the things that you say in public. You don't believe the person that you are in public, because there's so many instances where you witness yourself having to deny who you really are in order for you to be safe. And at that very same moment, when you have to protect yourself because you're denying yourself, you lose trust in yourself, you lose confidence, right? And so being able to slowly learn to be myself and be open to myself was how I was also able to gain confidence to openly be myself and eventually come out in the open to my family.
Okay, so when you said that you were living a double life, it means at school you were gay, but at home you were not.
Yes, yes. At school I was gay, but also, as I said, in certain moments, maybe during break or in a particular class where I know the teacher's kind or whatever, or like in a particular class where I know my peers will be accepting, or in a particular sport, but as soon as I left school, because I'd either be at home or at church, then I knew.
You had to switch.
Yeah.
When you are at school, if it's a safe space, then it means the other little boys were not so hectic with you.
Yes, because
I mean,
I think, just like everywhere in life, throughout all the ages as well, like in terms of like people, all age groups, you do find people who, I don't know, they're just conscious or like they're just aware or they're empathetic. And so, yeah, even amongst children, you do find those who are like really mean, but also you find kids that are emotionally mature or empathetic, or they're just, naturally like that.
I think I'm asking because I want to know where the homophobia starts.
Sure. Like, yeah, definitely. Homophobia is there in primary schools. It's there in pre-primary schools.
In pre-primary schools?
Pre-primary schools. Like I said, like from grade R, for example, I knew like maybe I think in grade R, actually, I did have a crush on a boy. And I just remember vividly the fear of that being known by anyone. And there was this instance where we were playing in the jungle gym, and this was like a multiracial creche, pre-primary school, and there was it was an Indian boy that I had this crush on, and we were playing, and I'm not sure what exactly happened, or it's something that I said in the lines of, no, I want to play with this boy and not you or whatever, where this other child was like, oh, you like so-and-so, I'm gonna go tell on you. And I just remember being terrified. I literally wanted to pee my pants because I was like, I know this is wrong, and now someone is gonna tell on me. And sorry. As you were asking, this is something that kids are able to use against you. That, like, even if it's not telling on you on a teacher, but like, we're not gonna play with you. Go play with the girls or whatever, because you're not acting like us, or like you like boys, so don't be around us. And so homophobia is there at a very young age, and kids are able to use it against one another.
So this re-education program actually is gonna need to start us from grassroots.
Definitely, because we know that children learn from adults.
Yes.
And in as much as we see things like racist behavior in young children, we are able to see homophobic behavior from young children because all of these things are taught. We are socialized, even as gay people, we are socialized into believing we are wrong for feeling the way that we are. That's why as a child, I was able to identify that I'm not safe when people start speaking this way. I'm not safe around people that behave this way around gay people. And so definitely the education needs to start at grassroots when children are still very young, because racism, homophobia is also taught to children.
They're always saying that these gay people are teaching our children to be gay.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I mean, it's because people believe that homosexuality is contagious. That's why even amongst grown people, And as I said, it starts at a young age where children will say, don't be around us, don't play with us. Because I think it really is that mentality that you're going to pass it on to someone. And maybe from a perspective of that behaviors are taught, they're learned as well. So maybe people feel that, okay, if we allow you to be free and we tolerate you, we'll start behaving like you. We'll feel that, okay, maybe this is okay for me to experiment. But the thing is, what's wrong with that if that's how you feel? As long as no one is imposing that on you and it's a conscious decision that you're making, that you would actually like to experiment and feel what it's like to engage in homosexual behavior, I guess. But why would you if you don't feel that way? You know, so homosexuality is not contagious. It's not. It's only if you, like, as I said, it's an expression of your essence, how you already feel inside. And I don't believe for a day that anyone who doesn't at least feel that they are interested or curious or have innately felt like that from birth, I don't believe any person who doesn't feel that way would ever even attempt.
Yeah, and if they do, then they'll find that they don't like it.
Exactly.
Right.
And if they do and they discover that they don't, that's all fair and well. So, yeah.
So, because now you're taking us through you growing, because this is kind of what's in your book, right?
Yes.
You give us this journey.
Yes.
So then what happens? We want to know about the family. How do you go and break it down to the family and to the church?
All right. So the way that my family found out was, it was in a very messy way, if I can put it in that way, because, okay, first of all, let me put this disclaimer. I don't believe that my family wasn't aware that I'm homosexual.
Yeah.
I think they weren't ready for the conversation.
Yes.
Right? But there came a point where they were forced to have the conversation with me. And I was in varsity. I was doing my third year in university. I was studying in the University of KwaZulu-Natal in Pietermaritzburg campus. That's where I'm born and bred as well. So I wasn't far away from home. I was just living in a commune. And because also I am like a musical person, I used to be involved in like jam sessions at that time. So there was a time when I was involved in a rehearsal, and I had lost my phone prior to that, and there was a period that I was using my mother's cell phone to log onto Facebook and, you know, check up on my friends and all of that. I know you think where this is going. There was a chat that I was having with my friend, one of my closest friends, just updating them. I was in a new relationship at the time, and so I was just telling them about my new boyfriend, you know, just, you know, debriefing as a friend, and forgot about that. I forgot about the fact that I'd logged into my mother's phone and there were no security like features to stop, you know, anyone. It was just a free access account type of app, because also it was on my mother's phone.
Exactly.
So I wasn't able to, you know, do all of those things. So I don't know how, but somehow my mother became aware of that conversation and the details of that conversation. And it was during that random day when I was at rehearsal that I just received a random text from my mother. And I'll say it in this Zulu because she texted it, but she was just like, she was just like, ngwabonile lamanyala akho optabane kuzomela uyeke lento yakho ubuye esikoleni sizokhuluma kahle. And I was so shook. Like, I just felt my entire body just dropping to the floor. Like, it was just devastating for me that, okay, this is now confirmation that she knows. Not only is it confirmation that she knows, but it's confirmation that she disapproves. Yes. Which is something that I was aware, but because there was no confirmation, I was able to treat it as if it's not real.
Yes.
But now having her express it to me made it so real that, yeah, I was just devastated. So I packed my bags from commune like the following day and I went home. We did not speak for the next 7 days, but I was home. And after those 7 days, I decided this is so toxic for me. I can't take it anymore because no one is saying anything. I can't find the strength to be the one to say something first. And I can also tell that she's just so angry. Like, so I wrote a letter on my phone. I went on my notepad and I wrote this letter to her. It ended up being 9 pages, but I sent it to her nonetheless. And that was also that last day when I wrote that letter. It was also the day that I had another rehearsal. So I left home. I switched my phone off and put it on airplane mode. I didn't want another repeat of the last rehearsal. So yeah, I sent this message, and when I came back from that, my phone had probably like 100 missed calls from everyone that I know. So me sending that letter and then just switching off my phone, I guess my mother had come to the conclusion that I was going to hurt myself. You know, also, you know, I guess it was also like compounded by the fact that we were not speaking the whole time.
She felt guilty.
I would love to believe so. Yes, yes. Yeah, definitely. Actually, I never thought about it that way, but that makes so much sense because after not speaking, and now all of a sudden I leave and I drop this letter. Exactly. She was probably just like, "Oh, my baby, like I shouldn't have done. I was too rough on him or something, you know." And so yeah, like coming back from rehearsal back to my commune, I found so I have 3 sisters. And they're all older than me. I'm the youngest. And I found all of them there with my mom at the gates. They were weeping. And I, at the time, I was so angry. I didn't want to speak to them. But eventually, because I was with my friend, she was just like, no, I think you really need to have a conversation with them. And yeah, for the next 5 hours, we were talking. And yeah, tears were shed, obviously, before I could even speak, literally the moments before I had to say my first word, I literally was so close to fainting. It was all just so overwhelming, you know. Yeah. But what was sad for me in that moment is that I was still not ready to let them know that this is a person that I want to be. Because I remember in that conversation making a promise to them that I'm going to change my life. I'm going to live for the Lord. I'm going to serve the Lord and stop this homosexual behavior, or as my mother said, la manyala obtabani. And at that time, I convinced myself that I'm still committed to being a different person. But it was a lie that I was not able to keep up for long. And it didn't take me more than 3 or 4 years after that. And I just truly decided, I didn't have any conversation with anyone, but something that I decided that I'm going to be open everywhere. Yeah. And yeah, I'm just going to be who I am. Yeah.
Who was the first person you came out to?
Wow. I don't even know if I can remember, but I think, so I have a niece who is 13 days younger than me, so we were born in the same month. And we've practically have been living as twins my entire life. And I would assume that she's like the first person, at least in my life, someone that I considered a friend.
She was a safe space.
She was a safe space, you know. I was able to be, even when we're home, when I'm playing with her, she was, you know, that first person that would be able to understand. Even when we're around other kids, I knew that she was a safe space among those kids, someone I could gravitate towards. And I would notice that, yeah, she would, you know, behave in a way like, or when she'd have to say something to dismiss someone who's low-key being homophobic, I knew she was always that person. So I think she's probably the first person that knew in my life. But also with her, I don't remember having
a conversation. It just was.
But we're able to talk about it now.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
The church?
The church, I've never come out to people in my previous church. But it also, I remember it was in 2016 when I was beginning this journey of accepting and also consciously choosing to be open, that I decided to now step away from church and leave church. But throughout church, I think people also do realize, they do notice that this one is different. And the thing about church, I believe that there are so many men that are hiding behind, you know, the veil of church. And it's not, the thing is, it's not only church, but men find so many titles and things to hide behind to conceal who they really are. And church just happens to be one of those spaces where, you know, obviously, like, if you're able to present yourself as masculine, and plus you're a religious person, of course no one would ever doubt who you really are, or even question your masculinity, or like the fact that you're heterosexual. And so being in church, people, they do know, they do notice. You do have people who, you know, like I alluded to in school, you do have people who treat you different because they notice. You do have people who are nicer, but also it's obviously something that no one can ever be openly accepting of. And I've seen on social media now, in like the new age, that you do have apparently churches that are more accepting. They allow people to be openly gay. I've never had that experience while I was still church going, but in 2016 was the year I was still in varsity as well. And I think varsity also did have an impact in like giving me the freedom to have conversations about, you know, sexuality with peers, and also the space to be gay, which is why I think it made sense for me also to be the time when I decided to leave church. And, you know, when I left church, I wasn't particularly honest to my leaders as to why I'm leaving, because being gay was a big part of it, and I didn't feel safe to be honest about that, to, you know, say that I'm going against everything that you guys have taught me, everything that I said I stood for to you guys, and was in hands with you guys. So it was very difficult for me to be honest about that. So I made up my excuses, you know, tried to give them a half truth, you know, of why I was leaving. But yeah, I was still not ready to be honest about truly why I had to leave.
So let's talk about words and the violence of words, like stabane, you know, and some of the words that get thrown at the queer community, and the impact of that.
So words are very powerful. We know that, you know, we always say that the tongue, ulimi liyadala ngesiZulu. So words are very powerful, and as I said, that listening to people like Ngizwe, it always takes us homosexual people to those moments. It literally takes you back mentally and emotionally. When you hear someone say istabane, there will literally be a physical reaction in your body where you will either tense up. I remember I would tense up, feel as if like my body is getting heated up. And thinking about that in hindsight, it's almost as if it's a rush of adrenaline, because your body is telling you that you might have to physically fight for yourself in this moment. And so words, homophobic words, are not just words. They're not just jokes, or when people will make homophobic references and they will see you having a reaction and be like, ah man, it's just a joke. You know, we accept you. But for some gay people, it's not just a joke. It's now them having to relive that broken relationship that they have with their mother, that broken relationship that they've had with their teachers, or like having to relive that moment where they couldn't openly love someone that they loved and had to live through the pain of being shamed for wearing something or for saying something in a particular tone, you know. So homophobia is very traumatic, to say the least. And yeah, words are not just words they create. They lead to people being shameful of themselves. They lead to people not living their lives, missing whole decades of their lives because of something that someone said that gets implanted into you and replays on and is triggered by what other people also say, you know. So I think, yeah, it's something that we need to deconstruct.
Yeah.
Homophobia is something that we need to deconstruct, and it's something that we're going to need words to deconstruct. We're going to need new words. I don't know if this is going to make sense, but like, you know how like the Americans were able to recolonize this word of nigger and make it into their own. I don't know if we could ever do the same to words like itabane or whatever, but maybe we need to
criminalize them. What about that?
Yes, we can definitely
Instead
criminalize.
of accommodating them, and
exactly,
because if we could criminalize gaffer, then we can also criminalize the use of that
I
word,
think we
right?
should definitely criminalize words like itabane. But also maybe we're also going to have to develop new terms to refer to people, because currently I'm not aware of a word in vernac to refer to a gay person.
That's because we don't have such tinasngabantu.
Okay.
And if you study African history, you understand that even in our word, that's why you don't have gender for he and she, words like that.
Yes.
Because in African culture, it's fluid and everybody can just be themselves as long as you're not causing harm onto other people. So, in fact, homophobia is a colonial construct. The sexualizing of our bodies came nabelung, honestly. Tina, we were free, you know? So it's very sad to see this new exclusion of the queer community from culture. Like they were saying that they can't wear the cultural gay men. Did you understand it like that? Or maybe I understood it wrong?
Yes, they were saying gay people can't wear imvunulo. Yeah, you know, for me, I think when it comes to that, okay, first of all, what I was thinking in terms of like the word before I come to this point is that, yeah, maybe instead of finding new words, because as you said, like as abantu ngesintu, we don't even have words for gender, you know. So maybe let's not use these words at all and have them criminalized. But then also, okay, I'm trying to come to the point that you were referring to now. I think I've just lost my train of thought.
What was the question, Malaka? Were you listening?
Oh yes, imvunulo. When it comes to imvunulo, I really don't understand what the issue is about, because as far as I'm concerned, I understand when it comes to like royal dress.
Yes.
You know, that we should definitely respect.
Yes.
And I don't believe it's okay
for
anyone. Even for a typical heterosexual man to be wearing imvunulo yamakhosi.
Yeah.
Right? But when it comes to imvunulo that is common, worn by common people, but most we have men that are wearing skirts. We have, like it's the same concept as like now having maybe women pick up, you know, their torches and porch fix and be like, no, we don't want men wearing skirts. I don't know, maybe that's like, I don't know, maybe I'm stretching it too far.
No, it's true,
reaching,
because
but
also, yeah,
but like I honestly don't understand what the fuss is about, because it's just a dress, and no homosexual person is now trying to impose any gender politics on the heterosexual sphere, or is saying now the heterosexual sphere should now behave differently, or should believe in different values. It's just them wearing what I guess is identified with what is masculine according to tradition.
but isn't it also strange that this tradition gave birth to these homosexuals? So where must they go now? What must they wear?
What must we wear? You know, as you said that these terms like istaban and homophobia, it is a social construct. It's things that we were taught by colonials. So even these ideas of like now not being able to be gay, it's obviously something that we were taught by oppressors. It's something that is now we are using to oppress one another. And it is confusing our values. It's confusing our clarity when it comes to politics and what actually matters, what actually has a material impact on the way that we're living. Because having gay people wear imvunulo, it doesn't change anything about the way that a man chooses to raise his family. It doesn't change anything in what we believe is moral according to isintu, I believe. It's just people putting on materials onto their bodies. And it changes nothing about social discourse except for how we perceive it. That is the only difference, how we choose to perceive the way a person dresses. Just like how a person is able to be offended by a man wearing a crop top because they've believed that is immoral. They've attached certain ideas to someone wearing a crop top, and they come to the conclusion that this is immoral. This is teaching my children that, I don't know, they're not a man, they shouldn't be a man, or they shouldn't aspire. It's teaching my children that, I don't know, somehow, because that's how I see it. These men getting touched by how homosexuals are wearing imvunulo, somehow they feel that their values and their nuclear families are being attacked.
Yes.
Their boys are now going to grow up in a society that sees homosexuality being okay, and so their boys are going to become homosexual because somehow homosexuality is contagious. And that's not the lesson that we should be drawing from how people choose to dress, or who is dressing in what gear, you know? That's why these people are confusing what actually matters. They don't understand that this has no impact on how you choose to raise your child. Only you have the power to decide what you imbue to your child. But ultimately, it is a person as they come of age to decide for themselves what they want to do with their life.
So with this argument, Bati, gay people are trying to break the African family?
Oof. Once again, you know, I really don't understand how me choosing to raise my family with like my homosexual partner, like how it now forces you to feel any different about yourself. And I think it's something that it comes to the fact that we are broken down as a society. We are so dysfunctional that we have no time, in many instances, we have no time to learn about actually personal development. And as I said, you know, in the previous points, that people are so confused. They don't know what matters. They confuse things that matter with things that don't matter. And one of those things being personal development and understanding who you are. Because the colonizer has stripped us so much. They've stripped all of our indigenous institutions that taught us how to be, you know, like the great saying, like the great saying says that know thyself. And I don't believe for a second that anyone who is truly aware of what they want with their life, what they value, that they would be confused by someone who identifies different from them. To an extent that they would be confused by seeing a person of a particular gender dressed in particular dressing or clothes. I honestly don't believe, even when it comes to children, if we are truly instilling the proper values in our children, and we know that we are planting our children on fertile ground, then why would it bother us how men and women choose to dress? Because that has nothing to do with who you truly are, what you value, what you believe in.
Isn't it also strange because when men wear their traditional wear, they actually wear skirts?
Exactly. Like you have it even with the Irish. You have it even in Vunulo Leyetu.
Exactly.
It's not pants.
Exactly. That's
It's
what I'm
not
saying.
pants.
So does that mean that they're gay? Because they're wearing skirts?
You know, I honestly don't know what conclusion people would come to with that, because it just goes to show once again that this idea that having to wear pants with two separate openings is now the definition of masculinity. It just goes to show that these are colonial constructs. These are colonial constructs, and we continue to propagate them. We continue to teach them to children because we feel that we are not safe with different ideas. We are not safe. Why? Because behaving a different way or starting to believe and adopt new ideas is destroying who we are. It's destroying our family units. We come to the conclusion that it's breaking down the African family. And I believe ultimately that's why it's still so difficult for South African society to progress beyond this homophobic, paradigm. And yeah, until people feel safe and people learn that they are not being destroyed in any way, they are still free and still have the power to uphold their values of isintu, yes, without having to control how another person dresses, And also, I think what's also important is if people understand and they learn that people behaving in different ways, like how having homosexual people dress in isintu, it does not negate from the traditions and the morals and values behind the traditions that are in place. It's just around, it's about people who follow them to respect them, and for the people who also don't follow them to be able to respect people who follow isintu, and also be able to be teachable as well. Because I think also as homosexual people, we do need to sit back and also do try to understand how people who are protecting this tradition so much, how are they offended, and why, just like how we said that we need to find ways of like not using words like istabane or whatever, but we also need to find ways as homosexual people to understand how we are offending, or what is it, not how we're offending necessarily, but what is the reason? Why is it that these people feel so offended so much? Because you could find that there is something that we can learn that can help us better be respectful, help us better be included and be able to practice and include ourselves in isintu. But it's never going to work if we want to force ourselves and just want to be understood and be like, no, sizogqoka ilento le ngendlela yesintu, we will just just take it or leave it. Just understand that this is what we're going to do and we're going to be included. We need to also understand from our side how we are creating this wound, or how we're poking into this wound, Because if we continue forcing our way in and not, I believe the way of not forcing ourselves in is by being able to conversate, as you know, having these conversations and not being dismissive. And I understand I'm able to say this right now because I've gone very deep into my healing journey and journey of acceptance. I understand that I still exist in a society where there are people whose minds have not changed about homosexuality. My mind has changed. I've accepted it, but there's still so many people who do not understand and they don't accept, which results in people like Ngizwe's comments. But I also have to sit down as well at the end of the day and be like, but people like Ngizwe badliwa yini? What's eating at them? And part of the problem may be like how people have been coming out to accuse him, throwing all sorts of accusations, that maybe it's the frustrations that he's dealing with as well that is causing him.
Hurt people.
And which is why I believe as homosexuals, we also do need to be empathetic to a certain level for the sake of progress, for the sake of being able to open up spaces of conversation, because we will never do it when we're still all at loggerheads.
It's so wild because that's the conflict with strong women. We face the same thing where spaces reject us.
Yes.
And we don't know what we're doing. However, we're saying that now we must dim down our whatever the special thing that it is. And so it's a difficult one, you know?
It really is, because also with what I'm saying, I know in my head there's there's a conflict because it's like, no,
why must I because
be
someone else is
exactly. And also, you know, there's this thing that like homosexuals may say, like in spaces where they'll be like, I'm no longer teaching anyone. I don't have to teach anyone anymore. I'm just living my life, you know. And like, you can't fault people for being tired because as I said, like, I've lived through homophobia my entire life. I've tried to shapeshift and, you know, change myself so that people could ease
bully
into
bully me less. What the hell?
Gradually accept me and tolerate me. And that's very taxing. It's exhausting.
Yes.
But unfortunately, it is the truth that it's a role that we also have to play as the oppressed to enable healing and to allow for progress to happen. To afford them that grace for everyone to be able to move forward.
Then the last question. Oh, okay, here's a question from Malaka.
Yes.
As a queer person, I'm growing up queer.
Yes.
Also having a queer mother, I've kind of noticed that with straight men, it's a fear of gay men being more manly than them.
Yes.
Fear of gay men exposing them, not in terms of like DL men, but like exposing their weaknesses and strengths at times. So do you also feel like, especially like with the Ngizwe thing, it's because, like, for example, the Ndunas and the management at my mind, they are Zulu men, but they still stood there in front of other men and told them that there's nothing wrong with the people that are in here. You're not going to come hurt them. So do you feel like it's coming from a place of fear instead of a place of genuine hatred? Because I feel like once they stop keeping themselves in this bubble of what they're supposed to understand, they become very accepting.
Yes.
I know a lot of straight men who are like, I don't care, he's gay. Like, it's got nothing to do with me. And so, like, yeah, that's really my question.
Yes, definitely. I think when it comes to men, fear is a huge factor as to why they are not open about who they really are. And it also is a fear that causes them to behave in a violent way because they believe that they are protecting something, as we said. Maybe they believe that they're protecting the African family unit, the idea of that. But more especially, I think it is the fear of them now being exposed as not being up to the standard, because the standard is very much patriarchal. And the standard has implications. There are many implications for being seen as not straight. Like you will find, even in the workplace, people will find it difficult to be led by you. They will find it difficult to see you as being given an opportunity of leading something. Why? Because they cannot for a second believe that homosexual people can be seen as an authoritative figure. And that is the product of dehumanizing homosexuals and also attaching all these undignified ideas to the identity of being homosexual. It takes us to a point where we cannot see it as being worthy to hold power. And like women, we then serve to strip them of that power. And we tell ourselves stories that they cannot hold power for the reasons that if they hold power, then they are going to give us teachings that normalize this immorality that they are. We will start seeing them as role models, and that will normalize this thing, this immoral thing that they are. And so it is definitely fear of them allowing that lesson to be learned by society, and also the fear of being seen also as a homosexual, because I think straight men know how they treat homosexuals, and they wouldn't want to see themselves being treated that way. So it definitely is a personal fear to not be seen as homosexual so that they can be safe.
You keep alluding to the fact that a lot of men are hiding, actually, because you even said it earlier on. Does that mean, I'm trying to understand the different, and I will have a lesbian woman to come in also to unpack the other side.
All right.
But does it mean that women are more accepting of queer than men are, but then also there's lesbian killings? So, across the board, it's just...
I think across the board.
So there'd be women also hiding their sexuality?
I don't know. And okay, from what I've seen and from what I've observed, I've noticed how women feel much more free to at least experiment.
Yes.
I see how, like, even on TV, it's much more represented to see women having a kiss, and we will, like, to a point that when we see women kissing on television, we won't even automatically believe that they are homosexual.
Yes.
It would take us having to be convinced by events.
Yes.
You know, that's okay. She's truly lesbian.
Yes.
But for a man, it can even take a glimpse, a particular angle of a glimpse, for us to doubt, how did you just look at that other guy? You know?
True, yes.
So yeah, like I think when it comes between men and women, the level, like the playing field is not necessarily level. Yeah, I think we are much more quick to judge men, yes.
I also think that it's easier for women to be gay because men sexualize the lesbian experience, whereas they can't sexualize the gay experience.
How so? Please just break it down for me.
For men, like, men don't mind being in a relationship with a woman and she hooks up with other girls because it's hot.
Okay, yes.
They're
yes.
like, you want to kiss her, it's fine, I'm going to kiss her though. Because they want to enjoy the benefits of seeing two women being together.
Yes.
Where they don't want to see two men being together. And I think even with women it's the same. I think straight women can be very homophobic. And I think it comes from their idea of what do men want out of society. And how do I help maintain what they want.
I think it's the patriarchal ones though, because There is women who are turned on by two men.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yes.
Definitely, but it's not as spoken about.
Yes, it's just not spoken about.
The way
Yes.
men are so
Yes.
okay with lesbians.
Yes.
Definitely. I think
Yes.
it's a patriarchal rooted issue indeed, because just thinking about how men sexualize. Exactly. Because that's part of the reason why I've always grappled even with the idea of masculinity and having to define masculinity for myself, because I see a lot of the ways that male peers behave, heterosexual male peers, how they are taught to just objectify everything, objectify even to the point of objectifying experiences, and then misconstruing that with values and what experiences mean, or what conduct means, and all of that. And so that's why I believe it's a very patriarchal rooted issue, because this idea of masculinity that we have created for ourselves teaches us that if you are a man, literally you are able to be in command of everything, and you are able to see everything as an object that can serve your desires and your needs. And that's very problematic, because it has breeded the caliber of men that we see today.
Yes.
Men who are very violent, men who are emotionless, men who fail to have conversation. I mean, today, I'm so sorry, but today men in South Africa, they really are lazy to address issues, because they're too busy objectifying things and making the world work for men, running the world for men, to a point where nothing else matters, because this animal of masculinity must be fed by everything. Please.
Even that smash or pass, that's
Exactly.
so normalized on social media. And you're just like, what are you doing?
Smash or pass, we have become such a promiscuous society, because the idea of masculinity is that it has immunity for all things. It has immunity even to certain aspects of morality. You will find men believing that certain things are okay for men, just like how, for example, they will say jokingly that no, indoda ayifebi. I mean, what does that mean? What is that? We're teaching men that no, you do not have to live to the standard of being faithful.
Yeah.
Why? Because you're a man. Your needs come first. Your desires come first than a woman. And also, I remember it was actually literally last week, I was having a conversation with colleagues at work, and it was three of us, between two men, and the one was a lady. And we was like, so this lady was asking this guy who is married that, okay, so like, you feel free to tell us about these women that you're seeing here when you're here at work with us, but we know that you're married. Do you truly expect your wife to be committed to you and to not sneak around and like how you are doing? And you could tell that in as much as he was slightly offended, tried to give her a politically correct answer by saying that no, as long as I don't find out about that. But we know for a fact, that men expect women to be at home waiting for them while they are outside satisfying all of their needs.
Yeah.
With satisfying all of their fetishes for all sorts of differently shaped women. So I think it's very problematic. It is a patriarchal rooted issue, because we've allowed men to behave this way. We've allowed men to believe that they can objectify everything. Yeah.
Then the last question I've got is, they kept saying that if the men are gay, then who's going to fight for us? Imagine having gay men fighting.
Yes. So, I mean, so that's also part of the belief. Sorry, can I just switch this?
Stereotypes.
Yeah, part of the stereotypes that, so in my book, I also mentioned that homosexual men are discriminated on because there's this false notion that they aspire to be women or aspire to be like women. Because we look down on women, we also look down on men, because if we see people that aspire to be something that's already in like unglorified, then obviously you must be dumb, because why would you want to be the thing that is unworthy?
That's what you're disturbing, actually.
Exactly.
The patriarchy.
And also the belief that femininity cannot hold power, or rather, it's more correct to say that femininity has not been allowed to hold power and authority in our society. And so that's why people will believe that if you're gay, how can you be in the army? It was only even up until recently that in the South African National Defence Force of South Africa, that if you are homosexual openly, you are still allowed to serve. So, you know, it just goes to show that because we believe that homosexuals cannot be in positions of authority, they should not be, they are not worthy to be in positions of authority because they aspire to be effeminate or have effeminate traits, then we don't allow them to fight for us. We believe that we cannot be protected by them. We cannot learn anything from them.
It's so weird, because where do they think that all that masculine strength goes to? Why do they think that gay men can't fight? When gay men can.
We can also throw hands, guys.
Right?
And we'll, you know, some gays will joke and be like, I can switch up right now. I can make my voice deeper if I have to.
Yes.
But like, honestly, you don't lose your physical traits just because you've decided to wear a crop top. You know, you're not all of a sudden going to start being physically weaker, you know, because you've decided to put heels on. So, yeah, and some of them, they can only learn the hard way once they're being thrown to the ground by a homosexual that they've chosen to misjudge. You know? Yeah.
Thank you so much. Fascinating conversation. Thank you so much for giving us the human point of view of what we're actually doing to other children.
Yes.
So thank you, NDUDUZO. Umoya ulight, umoya ubright. Please do share this episode. This is an issue that we are all dealing with. In all our families, there's the homophobic relatives. Please share this episode with them. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. The members, we see you. See you again next time.